You know, there is so much negativity around Nintendo and the Switch 2 right now. I mean, there's a lot of positivity as well. I mean, people got to play the Switch 2 recently in the little kiosks, one in New York with like 100 Switch 2s in a room with hundreds of people and media there to review the Switch 2 itself and the games, and people loved it. It was amazing. They say, like, game-wise and hardware-wise, yeah, software and hardware, the thing is amazing, and it's actually impressive and shocking that Nintendo is sort of, finally, it seems like they're in current gen, and they're even like outperforming PC handhelds like the Steam Deck. And those handhelds are showing their age now as Nintendo is catching up. A company that has never really cared about this stuff is finally catching up, and it's great to see. However, it seems like all of these amazing things are just bogged down with so many negatives. You have expensive console, even more expensive games, even more expensive games, in other countries and other parts of the world than in America. You have the whole issue of Switch 2 editions and whether the content they provide is enough to warrant an extra charge. For most people, they're going to say no. Their tech demo you have to pay for. Then you have lots of claims like physical media for the Switch 2, physical game carts won't actually store the whole game. A lot of negativity is going on right now. However, I feel like there is something huge that Nintendo are doing that a lot of people are glossing over. In fact, I think even Nintendo themselves glossed over this so minute. They put out a 1-minute sort of talk about this in the hour-long Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. 1 minute they spent on this feature, but this, I would argue, is the biggest feature of the Switch 2. In fact, I would argue it's even bigger than the whole gimmick of Game Chat. You know, the whole gimmick they introduced a whole new button for. It's bigger than that, and that is controversial in itself because you have to pay for a button, which is weird because why would you make it hardware? Anyway, the point is, Game Share is what we should be talking about right now. I had to re-watch this because I feel like, again, they glossed over it during the Direct, and I just wanted to get some facts right. And this is just a perfect system, and it actually answers Nintendo's own problem that they're creating with these really expensive games and hardware. And yeah, it's something I think people need to talk about a little more because this is just great. So what is Game Share? Well, the way it works is if you have a Nintendo Switch 2, you can share a game. Let's say it can be a Switch game or a Switch 2 game. It doesn't matter. I'm 99% sure on that fact. So we'll say Mario Kart, we'll say the new one, for example, or the old one. We'll actually say the old one because it worked better for this example. So you can have one copy of that with a Nintendo Switch 2, and then you can share that game with up to 3 other players at one time. So all you need is hardware. And this is there's so many crazy layers to this. So even though the Nintendo Switch 2 has to host it, I believe. In fact, I don't know on that fact. Let me double check, one sec. Okay, no, it gets even better. It doesn't even need to be a Switch 2. Okay, this is crazy. So no matter what console you have, it can be the host. You can have a Nintendo Switch Lite and host it to the Switch 2. You can have a regular and host it to the Switch 2. You can have a regular and host it to the Lite. It doesn't matter. No matter what console you have, the point is, you can share and receive games with up to 4 players at a time. That changes everything. I think one of the biggest complaints with these expensive games like Mario Kart, for example, is that it's Mario Kart. I mean, I would not pay the price they're setting that game at for, I don't know, Elden Ring, you know? Like, what is the greatest game of all time, or at least the biggest in terms of development and effort and, you know, cost to print? It's probably a game similar to Elden Ring or GTA, and even those games are not charging that much. So Mario Kart may be good, but is it the best? Is it worth that price? Not really. However, Game Share changes that completely. Nintendo right now are being pictured as this evil company that they're, you know, taking any chance they can to be anti-consumer. And don't get me wrong, they are. It seems like at most points of face value they are, and what they're doing is scummy. They've been doing this for a long time though, you know, introducing payment for online Nintendo, then like another plus Nintendo online sort of subscription. They're making the music app. They re-release old Game Boy games and charge $60 for them. You know, the list goes on. They definitely are anti-consumer for the most part, but this is sort of, it seems like game share is something that Nintendo shouldn't be doing by their own sort of anti-consumer philosophy. So imagine a scenario where you have 4 people, all with the Switch 2. I mean, the main controversy here is the game price, not the console price. A lot of people can get behind the console price. Maybe it's not what they were expecting, but maybe it's semi-reasonable. And down the line, you know, Nintendo are probably going to eventually phase out the original Switch, so you have 4 people with a Switch 2. Now it comes time to buy the newest Mario Kart game, and for a lot of people, and especially like games like Mario Party, buying those games is a massive commitment, because what you're doing when you're buying that game, a game that's heavily based on multiplayer, you know, let's be honest, Smash Bros, another example, a game where you're not really buying it to fight NPCs or to race against NPCs, you want to play with real people. So even though you may all have a system, you've got quite a huge commitment here. All of you in your friend group are going to have to buy this game just to play with each other, whether it's online or local, you all have to get this game. And not only do you all have to buy that game, but you all have to realistically, you know, ask yourself how much and how often are you going to be meeting up to play this game? Will it phase out after 2 weeks? And so a lot of people don't buy these games because, you know, they admit to themselves that price, you know, the game is good, but how often I'm going to play it, and will my friends also play it, and therefore I'll have a reason to play it? The chances are pretty low. So in cases like that, especially for Mario Party specifically, there's something sad about playing that on your own. It's really nice because it sort of encourages players to buy it in a way, because now they don't have to worry about all their friends buying it. They can sort of take one for the team, I guess. Or you can be really super organized and just say, hey guys, we're going to be playing this game a lot. Why don't we just split the price 4 ways? And anytime we want to play this multiplayer game, it's going to be in multiplayer mode anyway, so we may as well just get one copy, share the price, and just screen share, or game share that is, whenever we play it. And I guess the other way of looking at this is Nintendo are putting out these really expensive games like Mario Kart at $80, which makes you think, you know, they really want your money, but then in a way they're just putting their hands up and saying, yeah, you can just have one copy of this game and the rest of you just need the Switch 2 and you can all play it. And this is really cool because you could also game share old or original Nintendo Switch games to the Switch 2. So you just bought this whole console, maybe you have no money to spend on the game. Oh, and I don't have a huge Switch library anyway. Oh, but my friend has some games. Maybe I could just ask him to screen share and we can hop on, and I actually have a reason to play my Switch 2 now. Now, I did have to double check some things to make sure this wasn't sort of too good to be true. And, well, it is too good, and it is true. Every sort of detail about this game share is amazing. So first of all, it is offline and online, which is amazing. How you can game share online. You don't have to be next to each other. It's not just local play. The other thing is, if you are local and you only use this with local multiplayer, you don't need to pay any subscription to access it or something. Every console now will have this built in. Even old Switches, Switch Lites, you'll have that built in now for free locally, which is insane. That friend down the road with a huge Switch library, well, they've just given you a reason to buy the Switch too. Just borrow their games. And that's the thing, this is also combined with a previous announcement about 1 or 2 weeks ago from Nintendo about sharing digital games, so it sort of goes in pair with that. You could share a game, send it to someone else, and then have them bring their Switch, you know, across the country and then share that game. That's insane. You're now sharing a game with 3 other people, a game that you yourself actually don't even own. You're borrowing it and then sharing it. Those 2 things combined is amazing for consumers, and I think the way I am looking at this is it's actually going to make Nintendo lose money, at least in the heavily multiplayer based games like Smash Bros, Mario Party and Mario Kart. Just think about it. How often do you play Smash Bros? Maybe it's a lot, but maybe all the time you play it, it's with someone online or locally. Congratulations, you don't have to buy that game anymore. And what's more is it even supports the new game chat feature. So, and I hope this actually doesn't lag because it sounds like Lag City, but now you can share your game and share your screens all at the same time and share your faces, just sharing everything at once. It sounds great. There is one sort of potential downer with game share, and that is at the end of this, again, short 1 minute out of an hour direct. But at the end of it, they mention that this will only be available with certain software, so certain games, which could potentially be a problem. It's a little weird how they said that, but maybe they just put it at the end because it won't be important. And I guess the way it won't really matter that much is as long as it's with these, multiplayer heavy games, doesn't really matter if you can share Stardew Valley, for example, with 4 other players or 3 other players. I mean, the game's cheap anyway. And who knows, maybe that's why Mario Kart costs more than Donkey Kong. Maybe it's because you have the ability to share your game and your screen at the same time. So maybe Nintendo was sort of predicting this lower sales? I don't know. Either way, I think game share is this silver lining to this problem that people are having with the prices, and I think people have every right to be mad and upset at Nintendo for pricing their games so high. Also, by the way, there was a news article recently that a reporter asked Nintendo why they're pricing their games so high, and Nintendo blamed the retailers. Like, no, the retailers don't set the games, don't set the price of your games. You do. You tell them how much to charge. It was just a weird answer. But yeah, there are a lot of people out there that are saying they don't really mind the price of the console. It's just Mario Kart. So, I mean, problem solved, kind of. I genuinely think this is a really good move by Nintendo. Again, combined with the fact that now you can share your games, or sorry, I should say lend your games to people. That combination of lending games for free, temporarily, but it is like 2 weeks, but lending the games and then being able to take that Switch with the lent game and then share that game. Yeah, I think that combination is amazing. Does it justify the extreme prices of, these new Switch 2 games? No, absolutely not. But is it something to look forward to and maybe a silver lining? I think so, absolutely.